Okay, let's get started. So today we are trying to make sure that Rough Riders know about how GPA will affect them, because every year, senior year, we see that seniors get to a point where they realize that their GPA is affecting them in one way or another. And they always say they wish they could go back and change things. So the earlier you are aware of these things that will be impacted by your GPA in senior year, the better you will be if you take advantage of things that you can do now to improve your GPA as much as possible. So I want to just make sure everybody knows who we are. I'm Mr. Mata. I'm the college advisor at Roosevelt High School, an alumni from Huntington Park High School. From there I went to USC, then went to UCLA, and I'm currently going to graduate class of 2020 class of 2020 from Cal State LA. So I'll be doing a virtual graduation. I want to let Giselle introduce herself and then Yvonne. So Giselle, do you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Giselle. I'm a college and career center assistant. I went to Roosevelt, so I graduated from there in 2015. And I went to Berkeley for a year, left, and came back to ELAC. And then now I'm graduating class of 2020 in Cal State LA.
And Yvonne. Yvonne, are you there?
Yvonne, we can't hear you.
Okay, well, Yvonne is also a college center assistant. She's this young lady here. She went to Pasadena High School, went to UC Merced, came back to, not ELAC actually, that's incorrect. I still haven't fixed it. She went to PCC, Pasadena City College, and has transferred to Cal Poly Pomona. And Mireya, who is not here right now because she's in a meeting, is our co-college advisor from Bravo High School, went to ELAC and then UC Berkeley. And she'll be working at Roosevelt next year as well. We work with a lot of programs, so some of you might be in one of these programs. That's great. If you're not in one of these programs, you can definitely link up with us, hopefully when we come back next school year, about joining one of these programs, because students that are in these programs get additional help that helps them through the college process to figure out what options they have and what direction they can go. So I highly encourage these programs. And seniors have a chance to be college peer counselors. I encourage you to consider, if you're in grade 11, applying to be a college peer counselor for next year. And if you're in grades 9 and 10, considering applying in your junior year to be a college peer counselor your senior year. All of these students go through the process a lot earlier than everybody else. They learn it directly from us, and we can answer all of their questions because they're in our class 1 period per day. So that's who we are, and today we want to cover general information about your college options, taking a look at the GPA college requirements, the college requirements in terms of GPA, and most importantly though, we're going to focus on GPA. And all of this is to build your understanding of how your GPA, I keep looking at the dog, how your GPA is going to make an impact on your eligibility and competitiveness for college, your financial aid opportunity with the Cal Grant, and when you graduate, whether or not you graduate with honors, which are all important things to seniors. When they're seniors, we want them to be important to you before that, so you get the highest GPA possible. I imagine that because you joined our Zoom, you're not like these kids that think they're too cool and they're like, yeah, no college, and then senior year they're like this. But you being here obviously tells me that you're not like that. But if your friends are not here, and they should be, make sure you kind of relate to them how important this stuff is. This part circled in red is what I hear often. If I would have known this, I would have done things different. You do not want to be that senior. And I also don't think anybody here is super upset that we're talking about college. Normally this stuff we will do in your classroom, but here, since you decided to join, I know that you're interested in the information. And when we talk about why college, we're looking at one of the main factors is your ability to earn more money, have a higher earning potential when you get out there in the job market and the career field, because you will graduate from Roosevelt and you will be in a position where you have to look for jobs. If you only get a high school diploma, your average hourly earning potential is about, on average, $11. This is data taken in 2019, and it includes all kinds of jobs around the country. If you earn an associate's degree, your earning potential goes up to about $16 per hour. But if you earn a bachelor's degree, that's where you go to a four-year university and get a bachelor's degree, then the average it jumps up to $25 an hour, with the opportunity for promotions and raises that sometimes you cannot get if you do not have a bachelor's degree, which is important. So we're going to consider college as your golden ticket to be able to get here and beyond. And just like the movie, you gotta find that golden ticket in college. I don't know what I was gonna say, I can't remember now. All my dad jokes are more like in classroom dad jokes, not over Zoom. We do want you to be, if you're in grades 9, 10, 11, in a position where your senior year, we're celebrating you, you're going to college, you have a plan, you have a direction. Like some of our students here, Marcela is going to Berkeley, Jacob going to UC Santa Cruz, Katie going to UCLA, Byron going to UC Merced. It's a great position to be in, to be able to make that decision, and you still have time to make that opportunity available for you. Right now I'm going to pass it over to Giselle, who's going to talk about the different college options. So if college is your golden ticket, let's take a look at the college options.
So this is actually me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Yvonne. Yeah, Yvonne, I'm sorry. I was looking at Giselle's video, that's why. Okay.
I'm pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about college options. So some of the most common colleges that you guys will hear about, or that you probably already know of, are schools like UCLA, USC, Cal State LA, and ELAC, just because they're most common. Maybe you have family members that went and they're local to the area, but there are a lot more. As you can see here, there's 28 Cal States, there's 8 UCs? 9? And then community colleges and privates can be found all over the place. So the 4 systems of California, right? The UC system, the University of California, like we said, there's 9 of them. There's 10 if you include UC San Francisco, but that's a graduate school, so you guys wouldn't be eligible to apply for that when you're in high school. There's 23 Cal States, again, all over the state of California. And there's over 200 privates. What you see on the map there is just a few. They're under the rule of the AICCU, and that's just basically, those are schools you apply to through the Common App. And then the community colleges, you can see how much more dense that population is, and that's just everywhere. There's so many that it's ridiculous, but those you can find everywhere in California. And then again, there's all these privates outside of California. There's also state universities that are outside of California, right? So Arizona State University, for example, there's Cornell, Harvard, Brown, Yale, which are the Ivy Leagues that you've probably heard of. But all of these are outside of California, but you can apply to them anyways.
And so thank you, Yvonne. So when you're looking at all these options, it's really important as a underclasswoman, as a student in grades 9 through 11 to start figuring out what the different systems are. You also have to know that community colleges and universities are slightly different, actually really different. These universities are 4-year universities. We call them 4-year colleges, and community colleges are 2-year colleges. We can get into some of these differences at another time. Today you just should know that these 3 belong in this category: Cal State's, UCs, and privates, and community colleges belong in that category. They're separate. Going back to GPA, there is a minimum GPA requirement for those colleges. So when you become a senior at the start of senior year, your GPA will determine if you're eligible for those colleges. So you want to take a look at that. This is something that you should know now, not when you become a senior. If you want to apply to schools like UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, UC Riverside, you have to have at least a 3.0 to become eligible. If you want to apply to Cal States like Los Angeles, Dominguez Hills, Monterey Bay, Fresno, you have to have a 2.0. So when you start senior year, not after senior year's first semester or not at the end of senior year, when you start senior year, we'll look at your GPA and you're either eligible for these or not eligible. For private colleges, it always depends because private colleges have their own determination of what the minimum is. It can be about 3.0 minimum GPA on average for many colleges, but you might find some private colleges that'll accept applications with a 2.5 GPA. So in these cases, you'd have to determine that by looking at the college itself. And then for community college, there's no minimum GPA. There's no minimum GPA to apply or to get in. If you apply to community college, you will get into community college. Now these are minimums, and one thing that I want to make sure that all students understand and are aware of, and you don't have a misconception that you go into senior year with a 3.0, it means you're going to get into UCLA. It just means you're eligible. Or that if you have a 2.0, you're going to get into Cal State LA. It just means you're eligible. You have to start understanding competitiveness, and competitiveness is really important because if you can imagine that this person is you're competing against other Roosevelt students, other students in LA and other high schools. You're competing against students around California. And also, in some cases, some colleges, students from across the country and even outside of this country, from other worlds. No, just kidding. Outside of this country, foreign students that come in. So you have to make yourself stand out. The idea of competitiveness is, I think, something that at Roosevelt we need to build, not just hitting the minimum, not just getting a C, but actually becoming more competitive. That competitiveness will take on multiple facets. So it's your A through G requirements, completing all of those and even going beyond those minimum requirements. Your GPA, taking the SAT and ACT and your score on those tests. Although for the class of 2021, current juniors, next year, Cal States and UCs have eliminated the SAT or ACT as a requirement. They are optional at this point, so you will not be required to take those. But that is an anomaly because of COVID-19. We imagine that for 10th graders and 9th graders, that requirement will come back in. Other factors can make you competitive, like your personal statements, if you have any volunteer experiences, taking AP classes, college classes, any awards you receive, if you're in educational prep programs, if you're in clubs, and if you're in a sport, if you have a job, all those things can make you more competitive and make you stand out. But your GPA, which we're going to focus on today, is what you have to take into account in terms of minimum versus competitive. And it's part of our campaign that we've really been trying to roll out this year through advisory, where everybody knows what these factors are and about being college ready at Roosevelt with your A through G, GPA, and SAT or ACT. So in my role as a college advisor over the past few years, I've been able to identify what makes you competitive at different systems. I want to be honest and clear that it's not like the number I'm going to show you here means you will be competitive at every college. It just makes you more competitive and increases your chances. So to get into the UCs that are the most competitive, like Berkeley or UCLA or UC San Diego, if you have a 3.0, the odds of you getting in are very low. You're eligible, you can apply, but you getting in, it's kind of lower at a 3.0 in terms of GPA. Obviously, they will look at other factors. What we've seen is that students with a 3.8 and above stand a higher chance of getting in to these competitive colleges. So that doesn't mean if you have a 3.8, you're going to get into UCLA. It doesn't mean if you have a 3.4, you're not going to get into UCLA. It just means that from what we've seen, the higher your GPA, around 3.8 or higher, it increases your chances. So if you're considering those schools in 9th, 10th grade, and 11th grade, you really got to push your GPA as high as possible at the start of senior year. For Cal States, it's a little tricky. There's so many more colleges. But schools like Fullerton or Chico and CSUN, if you have a 2.0, you're not going to get into those schools. Even if you have a 2.5 or 6, you might not get into those schools. We'll talk a little bit about that later. You want to be above 3.0, certainly. And if you get above 3.3, then you're really increasing your opportunities at colleges like this. That doesn't mean with a 3.3 you're going to get into Fullerton, and it doesn't mean with a 3.3 you're going to get into CSUN, but you'll increase your chances. For private colleges, honestly, it really depends because they are so different and it's based on the school. A school like USC with a 3.0 is going to be hard for you to get in. A school like Stanford, the same thing. Maybe even a 3.5 might be hard. You want to be above a 3.8 for schools like that. But there are schools like Woodbury University that you can get in with below a 3.0. So you have to do your homework on what college you might want to attend and what are the GPA minimums and what does it take to get in to that college. And then again, for community college, there's no GPA requirement, so you don't become more competitive by earning a higher GPA. So when we talk about GPA, it can get a little confusing because there's a lot of information. Honestly, the world doesn't make it easy for you as a student to figure all this out, but that's why we have jobs, we have roles, we have responsibilities to try to break things down for you and make them make sense. If you do feel like this guy, I don't know who that is. Is that like a famous guy or something?
That's it.
If you do feel like, that's dad joke number 1. Dad joke number 2. If you do feel like him, write the question down on the chat and then we can answer it after. And I'm going to pass it over to Giselle now.
All right, so usually when we go to classes, we give this presentation, and if I ever call on a student and ask them if they know what their GPA is, typically they say no, or they give me this face like, the heck, like what's the GPA? So I'm going to go over how to calculate your GPA. So an A in GPA forms counts as an F, counts as a 0, a D counts as a 1, a C counts as a 2, B counts as a 3, and A counts as a 4. So in order to calculate your GPA, you can't calculate it in letters, so we have to transform them into numbers. So say we have a student who gets an A, B, C, D, and F. All right, so you add up all the points. In total, I think it should be 10. Yep. All right, so now that we know that this person has 10 points, you divide it by the number of classes, which they have 5 classes. So in total, they have a GPA of a 2.0. So they're eligible for Cal States, but they're not going to be competitive. So if we end up changing those D's or F's to B's, that instead turns into 3s instead of 1 and 0, giving us a score of 15. And since they still have 5 classes, that gives them a GPA of 3.0, making them eligible for UCs as well and competitive for Cal States. So even though they might not be competitive for UCs, they definitely will be a little bit more competitive for Cal States.
And I want to add to that 3.0, we're pushing that as like the minimum. 3.0, it is the magic number. You most likely will get into a 4-year university. You'll get more financial aid, more scholarship opportunities once that GPA hits 3.0 and above.
It's a magic number.
Yeah.
It is.
Join us, Yvonne.
It's a magic number.
I don't know the song, but
You never heard it?
No.
I need to show it to you later.
It's kind of weird because I know there's about 20 students watching this, but since we're not looking at them,
It's good.
it's
We're just
kinda
having
like,
a conversation with
it's
ourselves.
like we're just messing around. No, but this is real stuff, so let's continue.
Yep.
So where will you land on your GPA scale in senior year? It really depends on what you do grades 9, 10, 11, and it'll have an impact. So let's get into that impact. Well, let's actually show you where your GPA will be. When you get your transcript as a student, you'll see a number of GPAs. I think there's like 10 or 12 here. Not all of these GPAs are important for college. They're important for different things and they measure different things, but for college, the 4 GPAs we look at are this one here. The UCW stands for weighted, so UC weighted GPA.
That includes A through G, AP classes and other extra points that might be put in.
Right, which, yes, and I'll talk about when that is calculated also in a bit. So yeah, that weighted GPA, the reason it's above 4.0 is because that student took AP classes to increase that GPA. The CSU GPA is for Cal State eligibility, so that's the one we look at. For private colleges, they'll generally ask for the LAUSD weighted GPA. And that's also the GPA we look at for your graduation honors. And for financial aid, one that students sometimes, or a lot of times, ignore until they find out what it affects, is for Cal Grant. And that Cal Grant eligibility, you want to be above 3.0. And I'll explain why in a bit. So these other GPAs that are there are important for different other things, but these are the 4 we are constantly looking at. And when senior year starts, we will run these 4 for each student and find out where you're at, because that'll help us determine what kind of support you'll need that senior year. And Giselle mentioned a little bit of this, but Cal State and UC GPAs are going to calculate your A through G courses. And they don't calculate every course that you take that's an A through G. They calculate only the courses that you take after 9th grade and before 12th grade. So what's represented here in green is your college prep GPA for Cal States and UCs, including any AP classes that you might take. Now, if you're looking at this and you're like, oh man, 9th grade didn't even count, that's actually not true. It does count. You need to pass those courses with C or better to meet the requirement, because passing those A through G courses is required. You cannot have a D, you cannot have an F in those courses, obviously. And 12th grade, the same thing. You have to pass those courses with C or better. They won't get calculated into that GPA when you're applying, but you still have to pass those courses. The biggest problem we have in Roosevelt is that too many students are not passing their courses with C or better, and they have so many D's they have to go back and make up. It's still possible to do that. You can do that in 12th grade, but it just puts you in a position where you have to make up so many courses. You have to pass the classes you're currently taking, and it makes it really difficult. What you want to do is make sure that before 12th grade starts, you don't have any D's or F's on those A through G courses. And you know, sometimes it happened to me when I was in 9th grade, I got an F on a class, or maybe in 10th grade you might get an F on a class, or 2 or 3. But you have to use all of the opportunities you have to right here to make those up and clear them off of your transcript as best you can. Some classes that are not A through G classes that you're taking that are grad requirements, like PE or health, do not count into this GPA, even if you take them here. Other classes that are not approved A through G courses, that might seem like important courses like leadership or advisory or even college peer counseling, are not A through G courses that are not counted in this GPA. And so it's really important, like I said, make up those classes before 12th grade starts, not when 12th grade starts. You have summer school, you have adult school, you have Ingenuity, credit recovery. You can even take sometimes college classes to make up those requirements. If you wait until 12th grade, it's too late and you don't have the highest GPA possible. And I would urge anybody who is watching or will watch this later on my YouTube channel called Mr. Mata Quarantine Workshops. That you try to improve your GPA now by like this semester's courses, no D's. You can't get any F's, so just no D's this semester. C's are okay because they get you to pass the requirement, but you want to try to get A's and B's to try to be above that 3.0. And then make up any D's or F's on A through G courses as soon as possible. But you can also try to improve your GPA by taking AP classes, honors classes, or even college courses. You want to talk to your counselor about AP and honors because it might not be the right fit for everybody, so you want to make sure that it's an opportunity for you that you can take. And for ELAC courses at Roosevelt, every semester we have a few that are open to everybody. And taking those ELAC courses will give you a GPA bump when you apply to college. In fact, if you get a C or better, you get 1 extra point. This semester, for example, for our early college program with ELAC, we offered health, psychology, child development. Every student taking this class, if they pass it with a C or better, when they put it on their college application, they'll get 1 extra point for their GPA calculation. And I just went over this, but definitely you want to work with your counselor if you need to make up classes. It happens to everybody. Giselle, Yvonne, I'm sure you got a D or F, right? At some point in high school? No? Wow.
No.
Okay, well,
I got one.
did. Thank you, Yvonne. You joined. You understand.
My dad would kick my butt.
I mean, my parents would too, but
It happens.
So we've all been there except Giselle. These are your
overachiever
options.
over here.
I'm telling you, my dad would kick my butt.
So I created this so you can visually see what happens based on your GPA. So if you look at this, here are your college options. If you're above a 3.0, if you're in this range here, you kind of have all of these options in front of you. That doesn't mean you're going to get into all these schools or even apply to all of them, but those options are there when you're a senior. If you wanted to apply to UC Merced, it's there, you can. Or a private school or Cal State. And if you still wanted to go to community college, it's there. When your GPA drops down to this range, you've lost the UC University option. For the most part, most private colleges, you've lost that too, although you can find occasionally a private college here and there that might accept you below 3.0. And you're really trying to look at these Cal State universities as options. When you go below 2.0, you've lost all your university options right after graduation. However, you can go to community college still, and you can transfer to a UC private or Cal State university. You would start at community college and then do the transfer process to try to attend a UC private or Cal State. I didn't ask Giselle or Yvonne to talk about this, but I'll put them on the spot to talk about this because they've just gone through this process and they could just share a few insights into how easy or difficult it is, because it's not that easy, right?
It's not easy at all. I think if you could get it on the first go, you should do it, because the first time applying to schools, it was a lot easier because I had help from other people. I didn't have to seek it out. People were coming to me. My advisors kept talking to me. My counselors kept talking to me. People were just around me, helping me out. Once I went to community college, it was very difficult because you don't have that support anymore. You have to go and look for it. Like, it's still there, but you have to go to centers to look for it. Also, they don't tell you how difficult it is to get classes in community college. Like, sure, you'll get them eventually, but there's no guarantee. And also, if you take the wrong classes, that just makes the process even longer. So it'll take longer to graduate from there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Giselle said, that when you're at a community college and you're trying to transfer, it's very difficult to find that help. Even working in the college corner when I was transferring, I asked Giselle to go over my application, and she did. And I trust her. And even after that, I went to PCC's transfer center and I asked one of the people there, one of the counselors, to go over my application. And he was like, yeah, I don't have time today. He's like, come back another day. And so I just never went back. And so why would I go looking for help and then not receive it? So just take advantage of all the opportunities that are there for you and try to make sure that you're on track, because one of the most difficult things that I see is that even though it's great that community colleges are now offering the first 2 years free, um, sometimes if, like Giselle said, you don't take the classes that you need or you're not able to get those classes, um, it's very easy to get lost in that system if you don't have the appropriate guidance.
Yeah. So that's why we try to urge. Hey, Mireya's here. Welcome.
Hello.
She's been here for like 20 minutes now.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
in Skittles. Yeah, you didn't see my joke. It's great. Yeah, but so about transferring and stuff, I think that it can also be difficult because if you don't know what you're doing, like you don't know what you want to study, like um, and you're taking random classes because you're trying to figure that out. Say you take the class, it's really difficult, and then you don't do great in it. Like you get a poor grade. That grade's gonna follow you around for like forever, and it's gonna make it difficult to transfer because it's gonna like pull down your GPA, and you can't just take APs, or it's not as easy to raise your GPA. It can be really competitive trying to transfer.
Right.
And also, like, a really big thing is that I see that students who go to community college generally start working, or their parents ask them to start helping pay rent and stuff. And honestly, like, that has a lot to do with it too, because my parents asked me to start paying rent when I came back and I went to community college. And that really affected me because I wasn't used to working and taking a full course load and then having to start paying my own bills and doing all this other stuff. Like that, it has a really big influence. So I ended up staying at PCC for 4 years before I transferred.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sharing that. It's not that community college is bad, it's a great option and it'll be there for everyone. We just are trying to urge students to be in a position to go direct to university if that's what you're looking for. Now, I do want to stress this because if you're on the low 2.0 range, in fact below 2.7, 2.7 GPA seems to be, if you're below 2.7, your chances of getting into Cal States are very, very low. And so for you to get in, you have to apply to an EOP program. And it's great. We encourage all of our students to apply to the EOP program because if you're in EOP, you get additional support, sometimes additional money that other students don't get. But when you're below 2.7 and you're not admitted to Cal States, your only opportunity to be admitted is through the EOP program that can take students that were denied, look at their application because it's an additional application, look at your personal statements that you answer for that application and teacher recommendations, and I guess admit you separately. They're called special admits to the schools, which is why we have everybody who's above a 2.0 apply and apply to the EOP program, because we have every year students that get in even though they were denied from the school through the EOP program. Which is why if you're closer to that 3.0 and above that 3.0, you just have a better opportunity to get in. The last thing I'll talk about is financial aid, and then I'm going to kick it over to Mireya, who's going to talk about how your GPA affects graduation. So for financial aid, which is something that every year we hear seniors say, oh, I needed this GPA for that. If I would have known, I would have gotten better grades. There's something called the Cal Grant, and the Cal Grant is from the state of California. And the state of California gives you money to go to college, and all you have to do is earn a certain GPA while you're in high school, and they'll give you that money. It's called an entitlement award. You get it. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to hope you're selected. You're automatically awarded that if you have the GPA and your parents make under a certain income amount. So for Cal Grant A, that's the one you want to get, because Cal Grant A, if you're above a 3.0 and your parents make under the income limit, you will get Cal Grant A. So if you go to a Cal State, they'll give you $5,742 for up to 4 years. Each year, you reapply through the FAFSA or DREAM Act application, and it covers all of the tuition at the Cal State. For UCs, it'll be 12,570. For private colleges, it'll be 9,084. So it depends what college you're going to, how much that money is going to be. If you get Cal Grant A, you don't have to worry about the tuition. And this is not the only financial aid you will get. You will get other financial aid. For example, you can get Pell Grant. You can get other federal grants. You can get college scholarships and grants. This is just a baseline, not a baseline. This is just one example of a grant that is tied to your GPA. If you're below that 3.0, you lose Cal Grant A, even though it's still there. You lose Cal Grant A. State of California still offers grants for students above a 2.0. It's called Cal Grant B. That number drops down to 1,656. It's around $1,600. I don't know if that's an exact number. Maybe it went up recently. But you'll get this smaller Cal Grant B, to help you pay for Cal State, UC, or private college, or community college. And some students, you go to Cal Grant A, most Roosevelt students will get this because the income limits are so high. For a family of 4, the parents have to make under 105,000 or 110,000, something like that. So it's really high, and most Roosevelt parents do not make that amount. So almost every student will get this. When you go to Cal Grant B, there are students who do not get this even though they have the GPA, because their parents make over the income limit, which for a family of 4 is about nearly $60,000, which is still a lot, but some of our parents make more than that, and so the student has the GPA but won't get this Cal Grant B. So if you're thinking about which Cal Grant would you rather have, you most likely would rather have this one, and you just have to have a 3.0 GPA to get it. And Mireya, if you're there, can you just talk about graduating with honors?
Yeah, I'm right here. So there are multiple reasons why you should keep your GPA up, and one of them is that you can graduate with honors, or even more than that. Your LUSD official GPA, which is the same as your weighted GPA, determines if you graduate with honors, high honors, principal's honors, or as the or valedictorian. Sorry, that's actually kind of hard to say. But it's pretty much what it says here: 3.0 to be honors, etc. Valedictorian and salutatorian usually get to speak at the graduation ceremony, and they get to wear different colored, what are they called?
Stoles. They're
called
called
what?
stoles.
Stoles? Okay. So different colored stoles, and they get to feel really special.
Yeah, so this year's valedictorian's Kevin Gomez, the salutatorian's Amy Olive. And I will tell you this, because I'm in charge of passing these out. When seniors are getting ready to graduate, they want one of these because it makes you stand out. And they feel really bad when they don't get one. So if you want one, you need to get at least a 3.0. But if you want to be the valedictorian, you need to be the top ranked student. At this year's Teddies, we acknowledge the students that were honors, high honors, principal's honor roll, salutatorian, valedictorian at each grade level, to make you aware of that.
Yeah, look at how much these people stand out. You know, you can see who has honors. It's great. Don't you want to be them?
Yeah.
I want to be them, you know?
Right.
I wish I was back in high school.
I know.
All right, so to recap, I'm going to recap real quick. So for eligibility, the Cal State minimum is 2.0. You want to improve your odds by being at a 2.8, but if you want to be competitive, you're going to be above a 3.0 for Cal States. It's really hard because it's not like black and white, like one GPA and then you're good. For UCs, 3.0 is the minimum. You improve your odds of getting into UC with a 3.5, looking at our history. And if you want to be competitive, you want to be at above a 3.8 for those competitive schools. For financial aid, if you have a 2.0, you're looking at the Cal Grant B. hopefully, if your parents make under the income limit. If you're above 3.0, you're looking at Cal Grant A, and most likely you're going to get it. Plus, you'll be eligible for a lot more scholarships once you hit that 3.0, because a lot of them have 3.0 as a minimum GPA. Not all of them, though. And then when you're up here, not only do you get Cal Grant A, but some university institutions will give you some of their larger scholarships that they have when you're closer to that 4.0 range. And then you'll graduate with honors at 3.0, high honors at 3.6, actually, not 3.5, 3.6. Principal's honor roll at above 4.0, and the top student gets valedictorian. The second ranked student is the salutatorian. We wanted to share all of these things to every student. Only about 15 of you are still here, or 16. Please spread the word, because just because the student is not here doesn't mean they shouldn't know this information. Maybe they're taking a nap. Who knows? I don't know. It's been pretty crazy with COVID-19. However, even if you end up senior year here, it doesn't mean your life is over. There are still options for you, and we will be there to support your planning and process during your senior year. So don't think like, oh, I don't have a 2.0, that means, they're not going to help me. We definitely help every student throughout the process if you do have a plan to go to college. But it all depends on you. Dad joke number 3. This looks like it's pointing at me, though, so it doesn't depend on me. It depends on you as the student to get there. Okay, I'm going to get out of this. Join you back in the chat.
We don't have any questions.
Awesome. That means that we
explain. For your next meeting.
That means we explain everything perfectly. Yeah, I got to jump into my next meeting. Are there any questions, however? If you have one, you have like 1 minute. Yeah? I hear somebody talking, but I can't hear the question.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. If you want to type it into the chat, you can as well.
Meanwhile, I'm going to eat Cookie Crisp cookies. Don't judge me.
Do
you think their parents named them iPhone, or they named themselves?
Don't you have another meeting to be in? I'm just kidding.
Starts at 3.
Who would make my awesome jokes?
You're
right.
Being at work.
All right, so I recorded this. I'm going to upload it somewhere. I don't know where yet, in case anybody wants to see it. Okay. Thank you, College Corner team. I feel like the information was very useful.
Oh.
Any reactions?
Can we still get help? Yes, so absolutely. Leslie asked if she can still get help from the College Corner if you choose to go to community college. That's exactly what we're here for. You'll see sometimes at the beginning of the school year, we offer a little bit more support to those that are 4-year university bound, just because that application is a lot more intricate than the community college one. But we will absolutely be there for you, and we will offer you as much support as we can for if you decide to choose a community college route.
Yep. Thank you, Leslie. All right, everybody. I think that was successful. iPhone said thank you.
You're welcome, iPhone. I don't know what you asked, but you're welcome.
We can't. Maybe if we mute ourselves, they can speak and we'll hear them.
Maybe
they're speaking in binary. That's why we don't understand.
that didn't work out.
Okay. Well, if you guys have any questions, Mata, you're on their Schoology classes, right?
Yeah, you can email me questions if you couldn't ask them now. Or if you're watching this later, you can email those questions to me on Schoology through that homeroom grade level group course.
Yeah.
All right, now for sure I have to go because I got to join my LAUSD meeting.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.